response. I think you'll appreciate this. Sometimes historians or pseudo-historians go wrong or get it wrong for their own selfish interest. I ran across a couple of these guys. Who's heard of Arthur Koestler? Good, okay, you have his book, the one shown here, The 13th Tribe. If you do, the next time that you have a ladder out, put it at the top of your library shelves because it's inaccurate. It's not accurate. What he tried to do, and Koestler had this claim that Ashkenazi Jews were not descended from Judeans of history, but that Jews were descendants from the Khazars. You've heard of the Khazars? This group of people between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea running all the way up to Kiev. They had an empire. The theory or the statement was that leadership had converted to Judaism. They were very smart. They had Muslims on their south and they had Christians on their north, and they said, well, maybe if we're Jewish, we can be the bridge between the two, rather than understanding that they just made two enemies instead of just having one.
There is a stronger anti-Semitic accusation in Poland than just calling you a Jew. You can be called a Khazarian Jew.
There you go. So, but Koestler was trying to solve the problem. He said that if it could be proved that Jews were descended from the Khazars, then they weren't Semites, and so anti-Semitism would go away. And he believed this. Now, Koestler was of Jewish origin, survived the war, went to England, wrote this book, and it took the world by storm because, unfortunately, too much Jews are news. And so I never met this individual. I never went back and forth with him on the internet. But I did go back and forth with this guy on the internet. His name is Iran El-Hayat. I would call him a Ashkenazi, no, I would call him a Mizrahi Sephardi anti-Ashkenazi Israeli Jew. I met him when he was hired by the National Geographic Society to be their population geneticist. Even though he had a degree in population genetics in plant genetics. They hired him anyway. He came to the party with a few odd ideas. And what he says is there's no blood or family connection among the Jews. The various groups of Jews in the world today do not share a common genetic origin. Their genome is largely Khazarian. Whatever Israelite blood the Khazar Jews have had is minuscule. So his issue with the Ashkenazi Jews, I think, went back not to the fact that they were Ashkenazi, but to the fact that originally the Ashkenazi Jews were more of an intelligentsia moving from educated Europe, and non-Ashkenazi Jews had lived either under the Arabs, well, they had lived under the Arabs somewhere, whether they were Sephardic Jews who had moved to Morocco, or Greece or Turkey, especially Turkey would be a Muslim country. But whatever it was, he was just very interested in proving the kind of Khazarian stuff. And he got picked up by a guy named Tex Marr, who Tex Marr has passed away, but Tex Marr was either from, I think he was from Austin. He was a conspiracy theorist and an anti-Semite. And what I told Iran El-Hayat is when anti-Semites are quoting your book, you probably didn't do such a good job in your research. He didn't think that was particularly funny, but I wasn't interested in creating a fun relationship with him. I spent hours and hours and hours on the phone with him. So did a guy named Spencer Wells, who was the director of the National Geographic Genographic DNA testing project. And none of us were able to convince him, because when your mind is like a steel trap rusted shut, I can't teach you anything. You won't listen to anything. There's no reason that you come to a lecture, you just know it all. And that was kind of where he is. Now, the fact that this Khazarian thing has been used to try to delegitimize Ashkenazim. To me, it's a real serious issue because it leads to the legitimacy of the state of Israel. You probably all, as Americans, have heard of BDS, the Boycott, Divest, and Sanction movement. I contend that it's not BDS, it's BDDS, it's Boycott, Divest, Delegitimize, and Sanction. And the delegitimization of the Jewish people and our origins to the land of Israel, in my opinion, is just another clever form of late 20th century anti-Semitism. And my concern is that all that talk, and quite frankly, quite often those lies, lead to this. And this is what I'm concerned about. Because this questions your right to exist as Jews free anywhere in the world. And you can see that this is a rally. I took this off the internet. This was a Paris anti-Semitic protest, let's put it that way. But we're going to move away from those guys. We're going to talk about another Israeli historian. Has anyone heard of a man named Shlomo Sanz? Yeah? Okay. So Shlomo's one of my best because he's given me so much material to talk about. He had his MA in French history. His PhD was in Marxism. He was born in Poland, I believe, in a DP camp after the war. His parents moved to Israel either in the late, probably in the late 40s. He left Tel Aviv. Well, he left Israel in the 60s and moved to Europe. He eventually went back to Israel because, as he's quoted as saying, the coffee scene on Dizengoff was the best in the world. And that's what he came up with as his explanation for why he left France and came back to Israel. So the question is, if I give a pass to Kostler, and I just consider Iran El Hayat to have been dropped on his head when he was a baby, and I know that Tex Marr is an anti-Semite, and there's no way that you can convince a typical anti-Semite that Jews are anything other than nefarious, then how am I going to classify this gentleman? Is he ignorant, or the stuff that he says, is it malicious? Well, I'll just share with you two of his books, The Invention of the Jewish People and The Invention of the Land of Israel. He wrote a third book. By the way, these things have become, unfortunately, big sellers, and they've been translated into dozens of languages. I think only the Bible has been translated into more languages than these books. So this is what I took from his website in, I don't know when, 2009. Here's what he said: there's no racial or ethnic basis for being Jewish any more than there is for being Christian or Arab. And the great majority of those who consider themselves Jews are descended from converts from Central Asia, Eastern Europe, and North Africa, not from ancient Hebrews, mythically expelled from the Holy Land by the Romans, and hence are in no sense ethnic Semites of Near East origin or ethnic anything else. And I saw this on his website, and I said, wow. You know, like, wow. You know, can I, in any way, shape, or form, answer this? Wow. Because if you don't answer a lie, then the lie becomes the commonly accepted truth. Of course. And so it's I felt a responsibility to try to come up with some answers to this individual.